after graduating from the University of Texas, I moved to Israel. To many people, this may seem brave, moving to a foreign country on your own when you're 22 years old. But Israel wasn't a foreign country to me. I first went to Israel when I was 16 and went back for my junior year of college at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And I didn't move there on my own. I moved there with my boyfriend. We lived together in a shared apartment in Tel Aviv with a few other Americans. I had a man, and I had a plan. I graduated from UT with a degree in advertising and a copywriting portfolio. I wanted to bring professional American copywriting to Israel. My first job was an internship at a graphic design studio. As I enjoyed my budding professional life, I started having second thoughts about my guy. He was my first real boyfriend. All my friends and family liked him. I didn't feel like I had a legitimate reason to break up with him. But he didn't share my vision for staying in Israel long term. He would have been just as happy for us to get married and move to Chicago, where he was from. After I worked up the courage to break up with him, I helped him find an apartment with one of his camp friends. I moved into an apartment with a random Belgian girl. Most of my friends in Israel were in programs where you volunteer in a kibbutz or teach Ethiopian immigrants English. None of them had plunged into the working world of Tel Aviv. I was pretty lonely. One morning, on my way to work, I was sitting at the bus stop when a woman sat down and asked in English, "You American?" "Yes, I'm American," I said, looking up at her. She was an older Israeli woman in her 50s with shoulder-length brown hair, big greenish-bluish eyes. "I lived in Miami. My name is Shoshana, but people call me Shosh," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Sissy, but people in Israel call me Sissy," I said as we got in the bus together. "You shop at the Carmel Market?" she asked, referring to Tel Aviv's open-air market. "Come visit me at my spices store," she said, and explained where it was. "I will. See you there," I said, getting off at my stop. I began visiting Shosh on my weekly food shops. One day, she invited me to come to Jerusalem. She wanted to show me her hometown. I don't know what made me open to going to Jerusalem with Shosh, but something about her reminded me of my babysitter growing up, Mrs. G, who was always happy to see me when I got home from school. Shosh's eyes lit up when I walked into her store. It would be fun to see Jerusalem through those eyes. In the cab to Jerusalem, I asked her what she was doing in Miami. She said her son owned a bagel store called the Bagel Cove in North Miami Beach. I used to go there all the time with my grandma when I spent winter breaks with her as a teenager. I said, "We'll go by my son's place when we get to Jerusalem," said Shosh. "Great," I said, happy to go with the flow with Shosh. We got to her son's apartment steps from Machane Yehuda, Jerusalem's open-air market. He wasn't home, but she had the key to let us in. I went to use the bathroom, and when I came out, there was a man sitting on the couch. He looked at me with the same big greenish-bluish eyes as Shosh and a big, beautiful smile and said, "Welcome to Jerusalem. My name is Yossi." I had just seen Sleepless in Seattle. I was looking for the kind of love that made my heart beat. And this older Israeli gentleman who made my bagels when I was a teenager seemed like my destiny. The three of us walked to an outdoor cafe where Yossi told me about his plan to bring American bagels to Israel. I told him about my plan to bring American copywriting to Israel. "A smart and beautiful girl," he said. Oh, I definitely want to kiss this guy, I thought to myself. After lunch, Shosh conveniently had to get back to Tel Aviv, but insisted I stay. Yossi and I went back to his apartment. Before anything happened between us, I had to ask, "Yossi, how old are you?" 34, he said. Oh, okay, that's pretty old, but not crazy old, I thought to myself. "How old are you?" 23, I said. He looked at me up and down and just said, "Nice." And that was the beginning of my relationship with Yossi. He took me to pools for the day at the nicest hotels in Jerusalem. He sent me to the shuk with money to buy vegetables and cheeses, and then he made me huge salads. Being with Yossi felt like being on vacation, because he was basically on vacation, at least until he found the right location for his bagel store. Then one morning, Yossi called me and told me he had to fly to Europe that morning on business. He'd be back in a few weeks. Why was he just telling me this now? I didn't understand, but I accepted it. I was just happy to have someone in my life who I was excited about, even if he wasn't around. I called my grandma Seal to tell her how I met Yossi and asked her if she remembered the guy who owned the Bagel Cove. Yes, I remember him, and you stay away from him. He's a criminal. You know, he left Miami when his bagel store burned to the ground, and word at the JCC in North Miami Beach was that he burned it down for the insurance money. Later that week, Yossi called when I was at Shosha's apartment for dinner. He wasn't in Europe. He was in New York. I wondered if Grandma Seal was right about him. When he got back, we met at his apartment in Jerusalem, and I casually asked, "So, what kind of business were you doing in Europe? Import and export?" Importing and exporting what? How did you end up going from Europe to New York? Why do you ask so many questions, he said, as he peeled off a couple hundred shekels from his huge wad of cash that had a thick cent of American dollars and sent me off to the shuk. I started to suspect that he was either a drug dealer or in the Israeli mafia. But like a mafia princess, I ignored my suspicions. And I continued enjoying the glamorous life of being with Yossi. Then he asked me, "Do you want to go to New York with me next week?" Wow, I was flattered. "I need you to do me just one favor. I need you to carry a small package of money for me." What? How much? $50,000. I'll package it up real small. No one will question a nice American girl like you. No, Yossi, sorry, I can't do that. I'd be happy to go to the States with you, but I can't do that. Okay, you think about it. Call and let me know, he said. I didn't call Yossi. There was no way I could do such a thing. If Yossi loved me, he'd have to understand that. Later that week, I called Shosh to say hi. She said, "Yossi's about to come over to say goodbye before he goes to the States tonight. You coming over?" I didn't feel comfortable going over there. I was embarrassed to tell her that Yossi didn't tell me he was coming to Tel Aviv or even leaving the country that night. When he left, he didn't come back for a long time. Enough time for me to get over him on my own. I even wrote him a breakup letter in my journal. But Shosh and I stayed friends for years. As much as I thought what I needed at that point in my life was a passionate love relationship, what I really needed was a mother. I was a young woman living alone in a country halfway across the world from my family. Shosh provided me with the love, support, and home-cooked meals I needed to start my life in Israel. Thanks to Shosh, I realized that the right people flow into your life at the right time for the right reason, if you're open to it. My 9 years in Israel were filled with many interesting characters and plenty of adventures that I assure you violated no international laws.